All right, now that we've got our file prepped, it's time to go ahead and get it sent to the laser cutter. I'm going to come up here to File and then select Print, and I'm going to make sure it's going to the VLS, and then I'm just going to hit the Print button. Now it's time to get our materials prepped. I'm pulling out the blue painter's tape, and I'm going to cover the smooth side of the leather with the blue painter's tape. This is going to allow me to have a smooth and even engrave without any flash over from the laser. Once I've got that all smoothed out, I'm going to go ahead and peel it up from the desk very carefully not to tear the tape, and I'm going to pull out our digital calipers. The calipers are used to measure the thickness of the leather so that I can set that in the settings for the laser cutter. So I'm going to get those turned on, and then I'm going to use millimeters. So if I'm not already at millimeters, I'm going to press the center button until I get to that. I'm going to slide out the calipers, put those on my leather, slide them down so that I get the thickness. And I'm going to do that a couple of different places so that I can take an average of how thick my leather is. Once I've gotten the thickness, I'm going to go ahead and move to my laser cutter. I'm going to turn it on, and then I'm going to drop the bed down so that I can get my hands comfortably under the laser. I'm going to put the leather down with the tape side coming up, and I'm going to go ahead and smooth that down onto the bed. Kind of be careful to make sure that the tape isn't overlapping that side too much. Otherwise, I may have to fix it. And then I'm going to go ahead and raise the bed all the way up. This leather is thin enough that you really shouldn't have to drop the bed too much for the depth. Okay, so once I've got the material in place, I'm going to switch back to the computer. I'm going to click the ULS software down there in the tray and then click Settings. I'm going to click on Natural and choose Leather from the Settings database, and that's going to allow me to enter in the material thickness. If I haven't already set it to metric, I'm going to go ahead and switch that to metric and then type in my material thickness that I measured with my calipers. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to click Apply and go up to the manual controls. I found that the default setting for leather does not work exactly the way I want it to, so I do need to have some custom settings for the laser. So I'm going to click on the black, which is going to control my engrave, and I'm going to enter my custom settings in for there. And I'm going to click Set, and then I'm going to click on the red, which controls the cut lines, and I'm going to enter in my custom settings for that and click Set. I'm going to make sure I click Set after every single change I do on this tab, or it will not reflect in the changes that I've made. The last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go up there to the mode, and I'm actually going to hit skip on the red, which is the cut, because I need to engrave first and then cut, and I'm going to make multiple passes on my engrave. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the relocate view and the focus view to get my design in place so that it corresponds with where I've placed the leather on the bed. So I'm using that focus view tool to get the little red dot on the laser cutter. You do need to have the lid open to see this dot, but this is going to help me line things up. So I'm just checking the end to make sure that I'm falling on the leather in the bed, and then I'm checking the top and the bottom just to make sure that my design is actually falling on the leather. And once I've got that completely done, I should be ready to print. So the very last thing I'm going to do is check the focus of my laser. So I'm using this focus tool here, and I'm going to make sure the head of my laser is sitting in that little groove on the focus tool. So that requires me to get the laser into place, make sure that it is sitting on top of my material. I'm using the focus view on the laser cutter UI software to get it to do that. You can see that little red dot there that I'm pointing to. I want to make sure that's on my material. Then I'm going to flip up that metal lid, and I'm going to get into a position where I can see sort of underneath, and there is a red head in there, I'm going to slip the line or slip the edge of that tool under that red head, and I'm going to adjust the bed up and down until it is just sitting on the edge of that tool. Once I've done that, the laser is focused and I'm ready to go. All right, now it's time to switch back to the software and hit that big green button. So we should be ready to go ahead and get our first pass on our engrave. This is going to run depending on what your design is. It may take a minute or two. Once it's run, you can lift up the lid and check, but it probably is not going to be engraved enough. So go ahead and just hit that green button again. You're going to probably want to run the engrave job about 4 times before you switch and run the cut job. And this is what it looks like after the first pass. So we went ahead and ran it again multiple times. Once it was to our liking, we switched to the cut job. I went into the manual tab, turned off the black, and remembered to hit set, and then clicked on the red, remembered to hit set again, and went to the mode and turned on the cut, and then hit set again and let the cut job run. It'll probably take at least 2 passes for the cut job to get completely cut through. What you can do is you don't want to move the item while it's cutting, or it could cut it wrong. So use your fingernail to kind of feel in the grooves and see if it has gone all the way through the leather. If it's not, run the job again. All right, and after my second pass, slip my fingernail into there. That moves really well, so it's perfectly done and ready to go. I'm not going to peel off the tape just yet because there's quite a bit of soot on there, so we're going to get the leather we don't need out of the laser cutter and go ahead and discard that. And now that we have the leather out, I'm going to use a baby wipe or one of the cleaning cloths that is in the room, and I'm just going to run over all of the edges and I'm going to clean the soot off. I'm going to get some probably on my fingers as well. Just be aware of that. But we're basically going to make sure that we're cleaning all of the kind of char off of both the edges of the leather and also the engraving, so that it then doesn't transfer to our leather once we take the tape off. And once you're satisfied with that, go ahead and peel off the tape and carefully remove any bits of tape that are in the text by rubbing your finger kind of over that. Beware, you will possibly transfer a little bit of soot into the leather. That way you can kind of wipe it down and get some of that out. All right, let's go ahead and assemble it now. We're going to need the Chicago screw and the keyring. We're going to go ahead and fold this in half with the flat side meeting the first hole on the pointy side. Kind of give it a little bit of a press. As you use the leather, that crease will get smoother. But we're just going to give it a light press now. Fold that over so that we can get that into place as well. But I'm going to go ahead and slip the keyring on. Kind of just give it a little bit of a press to make sure everything's fitting right. And then we're going to go ahead and put the Chicago screw in. So putting in the receptacle for the Chicago screw first. Just going to slide that through each one of the holes. And then we will put the screw in and fold the strap over and tighten the screw, and we're done. You have a keychain.